Dalvin Cook still currently, I believe, check your phone, Dave, a Minnesota Viking. But
Yes.
we don't expect that to continue for much longer at all. So Chris emailed Dave and asked, if Cook gets released, where do you see Mattison's running back rank? Now, we talked about this very issue on the show yesterday from a redraft perspective. Jamie and I did, both placing Alexander Mattison in the late round 3, early round 4 range as an RB2. You feel pretty good with that assessment, somewhere in that range, Dave?
Yes. I think that's almost exactly where he'll be for me. You peg it around 40th overall is where he'd go. I would imagine that the closer we get to the start of the season, the higher he'll go in drafts. Something could happen where, another running back in front of him gets hurt, or Alexander Mattison runs for a 23-yard touchdown in the preseason and he gets steamed up into round 3. A couple of numbers for you that you might be interested in, Heath. The 25-year-old running back, Alexander Mattison, 8 career games with 15 or more touches. In those games, he's given you at least 15 fantasy points 6 times. 5 of them coming in 2021. None of them last year because he didn't have any games with 15-plus touches last year. And in those 5 2021 games where he did have those 15-plus fantasy points, 4.2 yards per carry, 5 targets per game, 4.4 catches per game, 9.6 yards per catch. This is a 3-down back. This is somebody who could absolutely handle the Dalvin Cook role in Minnesota moving forward. And so I would, after hearing those numbers, I almost wonder if round 4 could be too late and people will be too excited about him, thinking that there's a chance he can get 1,300 total yards, 9 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, and maybe even 40 catches on the season. That sounds like the profile of a running back that you would take with a top 20 pick, not a top 40 pick.
Now, but all that, and you factor all that talk about 2023 into the dynasty value. And that's where it gets really, really difficult for me, because we're doing kind of the same thing with Tony Pollard right now. Pollard, a year older than Mattison, has never been a lead running back. I tweeted about this yet last year. He had 193 carries last year. That's the most Tony Pollard's had since high school. And I'm not sure he had more than that in high school, but he's never had a 200 carry season in the information that we have available. And so when you have a back that's never shown the ability to be that full workhorse guy, at least for Mattison's case, in the NFL over a full season, and 25 with a pretty uncertain future beyond this year, but has the upside to be a borderline top 12 running back also this year, how you rank that in Dynasty, I think, says something about your philosophy. Like, I have Tony Pollard right now at RB 18 in Dynasty. I would think Mattison would have to be behind Tony Pollard. I have Ramondre Stevenson right in that same range. He would have to be behind Ramondre Stevenson. I'm thinking for dynasty purposes, once Cook is released, Mattison would move somewhere into that RB 25 range, in the same range as older guys like Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones, who we think will be better this year, and younger guys like James Cook and Zach Charbonnet, who we think Mattison would be better than.
Well, I think the basis of that is uncertainty. We don't know how good he'll be this year, and that'll determine just how much usage he gets moving forward. And I think for Mattison to be ranked significantly higher than where you're talking about having him ranked, and I think that sticker shock might fall in for dynasty managers who have Mattison and want to try and shop him. They're hearing you say that he's a top 25 type of running back in dynasty, and they're going, whoa, this guy's more like top 15. He pumped those bricks, because they might be thinking about moving him. But if he has a good year in 2023, I think it almost buys him another season and a half of getting a huge workload and being a really good running back. But anything short of having a really good year, and the Vikings can move on from him pretty easily. There would be a salary cap hit of about $4 million if they decide that Alexander Mattison isn't their guy. But what they could end up doing is pairing Mattison with a draft pick in next year's NFL draft, and Madison's in a timeshare with this guy. I don't think that's necessarily the style that Kevin O'Connell wants. I think he wants to have one running back there in Minnesota. And so I almost think that because we've seen him with a workhorse load, we definitely saw it in college, and we've seen it when he's been given the opportunity in the pros. I just laid it out for you. He does fine. Yeah. I'd be on the optimistic side that Alexander Mattison can at least have a plus efficient year as the top running back in Minnesota once they move on from Dalvin. There's also this situation, Heath, where the Vikings realize, all right, we're not going to get anything in trade for Dalvin Cook. We can't even, move up one round in next year's draft for him. Why not just keep him? Why let him go out into free agency and ultimately help another team, even if he's a part-time back? Keep that running back strength on your team. And then that muddies the whole thing for Minnesota, because I don't think Dalvin will get that full workload unless he just absolutely comes out of the gate red hot. He wasn't that last year. And then Madison's value takes a hit, obviously, because he'd have at worst be splitting 50-50 with Dalvin Cook. He might be in the exact same boat that he was in with Dalvin Cook last year. So it'd be a whole mess to think about. I don't think you can make a move to acquire Madison until Dalvin Cook.
And then he gets too expensive. And in my mind,